Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
All right. Well, welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. We are excited for today's series of episodes. Myself and many of my KRA colleagues were at the recent Raising the Bar conference in Maryland, and just want to thank the Maryland Workforce Association for putting on this conference. It was a workforce conference that featured over 1,000 guests, 1,000 members, workforce development professionals, leaders, folks that work on the front lines. We also had the opportunity to meet many great vendors and organizations that are actually supporting the workforce development industry. I was joined by a series of episode recordings with my colleague, Derrick Colbert. Derrick, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan. It's good to be back with you.
You as well. And Derrick, we had the opportunity to talk with a lot of individuals. It ranged from folks that are working on the front lines, leaders of organizations, vendors that are providing services within workforce development. As we were part of that, as you think back to the experience that we had there, what are some of the things that you think that our audience will be able to glean from these episodes?
Great question. As I reflect on the Raising the Bar workforce development conference, and just the series of folks that we had the opportunity to interview, I really feel like the audience truly going to enjoy this podcast series right here, because we heard from everyone that's offering services for returning citizens, a very robust conversation around that. The young lady that's a former KRA employee that's now working for employee Prince George's County, that's doing some excellent work within the youth development space. Our former colleague, John Hattery, that's doing some dynamic work for Workforce Montgomery as well, and others as well, such as Joseph Seymour, Mr. Walter Simmons, that really spoke about the collective impact that we need to have in workforce development. But for me, I'm gonna be a little bit biased. This for me, it was awesome to really hear from Mr. Knowlton Atterbeary, the founder and CEO here of KRA Corporation, and just to hear his journey, just to hear his insight on the state of workforce development, not only in the state of Maryland, but also this workforce development from a national perspective as well. So I really feel like the listening audience truly going to have an opportunity to hear from some dynamic individuals that's our trailblazers within the workforce development space. But please, I don't want to leave out, and I start calling names, I'm going to miss folks, but I don't want to leave out the conversation around the wholeness and the wellness of women in the workforce development space here as well. So just for the listening audience, I truly want you guys to sit back and just enjoy the ride that we're going to take you on as it relates to this particular podcast right here. Because not for the sake of repeating myself, but it was some very dynamic conversations and some very robust conversations that came from out of this podcast series right here. So we have something for everyone. If you are a woman in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are an inspiring CEO in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are a workforce development professional that just starting your journey in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are trying to figure out how KRA have been able to grow leaders within the workforce development space, we have something for you as well. So we have something for everyone as it relates to your journey here in workforce development. And you are a business owner that's looking to hire workforce development individuals or our job seekers, we have something for you as well. So here again, we have a very robust conversation in from all different angles as it relates to workforce development and community economic development here. So that would be my takeaway.
Well, I appreciate that, Derrick, and I believe as well that our audience is going to enjoy these episodes. And again, we want to highlight that this is a series. So if you're catching us part 2 or part 3 of this series, make sure you go back and listen to some of the other episodes. But with that being said, at this time, we will transition to our episodes that we recorded at Raising the Bar in Maryland.
All right, welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. We are back here in Maryland at Raising the Bar, the workforce conference put on by the Workforce Association of Maryland. We've been having some amazing conversations with former alumni of KRA, as well as leaders and influencers within the industry. And I'm joined again by my colleague and co-host, Derrick Colbert. And we also have a special guest, the founder, president, and CEO of KRA, Mr. Knowlton Atterbeary. Welcome, Mr. Atterbeary.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and be part of this podcast, particularly at the Raising the Bar conference right here in Maryland. As you know, Maryland is our home state, and we've been part of the conference for several years now. And this one seems to rival all of those in the past with attendance, but more importantly, with the content of the conference and the quality of the speakers. So again, thank you both for having me.
That's great. I know you've been to a lot of conferences over the years and have probably been to this conference before, but has there been anything that stood out or highlighted to you with the conversations or the themes that you've been a part of here at this conference?
I think one of the things I noticed right off the bat from day one through this morning, and that is the level of enthusiasm and the spirit that I find in not only in the keynote speakers and the presenters, but in the workshops. And there's just a lot of engagement and enthusiasm on the part of all the attendees, a lot of interaction between the attendees and the workshop presenters, which means to me that there's a connection both in terms of appreciation and in terms of relevant content. So that's something it's really bucked up, if that's a phrase, between the Maryland conference this year and some of the other state and national conferences I know you guys and as well as myself have attended this year. So it's really a plus. The other thing I'll add too is that the key leaders in Maryland, jurisdictions, both Prince George's, Montgomery, and Anne Arundel County, the leaders of those workforce boards and groups have done a really great job in putting this conference together. And I think it was remarked that we've got attendance here somewhere in the 1,100 or 1,200 person range. And that's phenomenal for a state workforce assembly as well as from a small state like Maryland. Great job, guys.
Thank you. As we sit right here at the Raising the Bar conference here in the state of Maryland, and KRA being a Maryland-based provider as well, a Maryland-based organization, can you let the listening audience know exactly how has KRA been instrumental into making sure that we are woven into the ecosystem here in the state of Maryland as it relates to workforce development?
Thank you, Derrick. That's a really good question. It's a complicated question. First of all, KRA has been around for 43 years. And frankly, it's only been in the last 22, 23 years where we have been providing direct services. Prior to that, we were a quote-unquote consulting firm doing studies and evaluations for the U.S. Department of Labor. So my and the company's focus has been primarily in the labor, employment and training, manpower administration. So we have been providing direct services probably for a little more than half of that 43 years of our history. I moved or transitioned into direct services because as a contractor working, again, for the Manpower Administration, Department of Labor, we were asked to go to the field, to go to the regional offices and provide training and technical assistance to state and local governments on how to stand up these programs, how to evaluate these programs, and eventually how to improve services to the various communities. So with that charge, and with the recognition that our team had the capability of doing that, I decided to transition 100% into the services field. Our first services contract was not in the state of Maryland. And quite frankly, we worked in a number of places around the country, and when asked, where do you work in Maryland? The answer is, we don't have any work in the state of Maryland. Mm-hmm. And it took some time. But recently, and in preparation for this conference, we went back and we pulled together kind of an index of the workforce boards and communities we've worked with in the state providing direct services. And they range from some of the larger communities, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Prince George's County and Montgomery County, as well as some of the smaller Eastern Shore units. The work has been primarily, if you just look in volume, the number of people we've touched and improved their lives, the work has been in the WIOA or WIA area, and also in TANF. They're the bigger programs. Some of the smaller programs have been in the area of helping boards, helping executive directors coordinate with all the mandatory partners in their community. And they have been the one-stop operator type programs. And we've done those in 4 or 5 different communities around the state. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Here on this podcast today, we have interviewed several of KRA alumni. All have went on to do great things within their career as well. As we think about the rich history that KRA has within the workforce development / community economic development space, hearing directly from you as the founder, the president, and CEO of this company, what would you say is your most proud moment of leading this wonderful organization?
Derrick, I don't know that there's one proud moment. Recently I've been kind of standing back and looking over the 43 years and realizing that after 43 years, I now have grown children, I have grandchildren, I've got a wife for more than 43 years, and I began to look back on what this organization has done, what impact this organization has had here locally and in other communities around the country. So it's not one thing, it's more like a legacy of things, and that's what I'm spending my time thinking about now. That is, what does tomorrow look like for KRA Corporation? Not as a business, but as something that we can look back on, and my family can look back on, and my kids can look back on and say, wow, my dad, my granddad built this organization that even though he may not be here now, it still survives, it's still making an impact on the lives of families, first generation, second generation, and third generation. So that's that's kind of where my head is right now. Mm-hmm. We have had a number of people who have helped grow the company and have graduated from KRA to other occupations. Not all within the workforce area, but some in the workforce areas have moved to some of the most senior positions in local community workforce areas, some at the federal level as deputy directors of regions here in the country, as well as several people have moved to leadership positions in local departments of social services in different communities. So that frankly is I'm extremely proud of that, and that is that folks have used their experience here at KRA, built out their resumes, built out their qualifications, and leveraged that to more significant, impactful positions for themselves and their families.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've had conversations with alumni of KRA, and Leadership Edge has come up. And I want to hear from you as the CEO of KRA. You've seen Leadership Edge before it started, but really probably part of the infancy of initiating that. What has been your perspective and your goal in Leadership Edge, going back to the beginning and how it's evolved to really develop those leaders? What was part of the intentionality behind that at the beginning?
I like to call Leadership Edge our in-house university. And it's looked and performed and configured differently over all of these years. But our initial objective was to make sure that our staff, our employees, particularly those on the front line, were providing the best quality services that we could to our job seekers and our business owners. And, when you're in this business, as our keynote speaker said this morning at the plenary session, you don't get in this business to become millionaires and become really rich. So we attract, as all other providers, we attract folks that are looking for a first job experience, maybe a second job experience, many with a college degree, but very few that have long work histories. So without long work histories in this area, there's got to be some instruction and some training to go along with that. So we put together a series of training programs initially designed for our frontline workers. That would be our career agents and our case managers, as well as our business consultants who work directly with the businesses and the companies that we hope to have employed our trained job seekers. There were other occupations and other reasonings as well. But from that initial job-specific instruction, we moved to a little more sophisticated instruction that included management supervision, guidance. In latter years, we've brought in folks from outside the company to provide some certification training. And some of the things that we're actually doing today have to do with the whole issue of life balance and harmony with your life. And we've had some in-house speakers and guest speakers do some of those things, because even though we're several years past the pandemic, we and other companies, organizations around the country are realizing that while there's a lot of trauma and negative impact during that period of time, our job seekers, when they come to the office, we need to be trained to understand their issues, their problems. But by the same token, we've got employees who have gone through the same thing. So, we've been, over the last year and a half, been providing that kind of instruction, that kind of, insurance, if you will, to our employees so they can be whole.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Mr. Atterbeary, and insights for our audience. It's really great to really summarize conversations that we've had here, and I think that you really helped capture that. We've talked about, as I mentioned earlier, the mission, the vision of KRA, and how that's been incorporated. And so thank you for sharing from your perspective and the origin of how that has come to be today. And hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference as well, and while we're here at Raising the Bar. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Derrick. I appreciate what you do, and I look forward to having the same conversation next year here in Maryland. Thank you both again.
Thank you.
We are here at the Raising the Bar conference here in Maryland. I'm joined by my co-host, Derrick Colbert, and we've been having conversations at this conference with influencers, leaders, and folks on the front lines that are doing the work in workforce development. And we're joined at this time by Walter Simmons, the president and CEO of Employ Prince George's and the Employ Prince George's Workforce Development Board. Walter, a friend of the podcast, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Hey, it's glad to thank you for having me.
Good. So at this conference, there's been a lot that's been happening. Today is day 2. There's been a lot of sessions. You actually gave a keynote address today. Before we dive into some of our questions, give us an overview of your role in this conference and what happens behind the scenes when putting on a conference like this, and the theme and the goal to really translate to those that are here in attendance.
Well, thank you for having me first. KRA, y'all have been a leader. Knowlton Atterbeary is a powerhouse. As a minority male in this industry, that's the person that you look up to, Regardless of who you are, that's the person you look up to. I always tell people all the time, who's that? That's the KRA, Knowlton Atterbeary, right? And so it's a pleasure to be here. But Maryland Workforce Association, State Workforce Association has been around. Raising the Bar is our professional development series. And it's always capped off with the Raising the Bar Conference. And it's really about taking it to the next level. And this has been a 7-8 year journey. Kirk Murray, our president, and I sat here, in Maryland 6-7 years ago and really talked about a conference and they used to have a conference and then it went away and the organization didn't have any money. And we were thinking like we had a little bit of change in the bank account, and it was like, let's roll the dice. Because either we're going to be the small, broke organization, or we're going to be an organization that don't exist, or we're going to be a big organization. But we've got to figure it out, right? But what we're doing right now isn't working. And so we brought Raising the Bar, that brand of conference, to Maryland. Started out with saying 300 people, 400 people. And 2024 is our largest conference ever. We were hovering around 600-700. We were at another venue in Maryland, and then they couldn't go any larger. We actually, at Live Hotel and Casino, pre-COVID, we signed the contract. We were going to be the first conference in this whole hotel. And we signed a deal that we can afford it because we were first. COVID hit, didn't happen that year. We came back in 21, but this year we're at 1,100 registrations, what I believe is one of the largest state conferences in America and Workforce Association. And that's powerful. I'm going to say why. Because this is primarily, Maryland, the local boards don't have TANF, we don't have Wagner-Pizer, we don't have any other grants. So this is predominantly all workforce people. There's not a lot of extra money, and so the people that are here, because they're here for partnership, they're here for mission, vision, alignment. And Maryland is a small state. We aren't Texas. We aren't California. We aren't Michigan, right? We aren't Florida. It's a small, you can drive through Maryland in 4 hours, maybe 2 hours if you don't want, ain't worried about the popo, right? And so this small state has band together to create one of the largest state workforce conversations in America, and it's all unified around a vision. It's how do we do better today than we did yesterday? How do we prepare our staff to be better workforce professionals so they can create a brighter future for the people we're serving? And so really honored to be blessed to have an opportunity to be here, to be a part of the association. What do? I'm the mouth. I think I do a lot of the talking. I'm also the fundraiser, so I'm always the guy that's like, hey, throw me a few dollars. And it's something that I love to do because I believe in the mission.
That's great.
So, Walter, thank you for that. When I think about your illustrious career in the workforce development space, for the listening audience, can you really let them know why you decided to make workforce development your profession?
Well, a lot of people think my mother, who I love and adore, is one of the leading workforce professionals in America. I would say one of the leading workforce professionals of the last 60 years in this profession, from CETA to JTPA to WIA to WIOA. For some of y'all don't know what that is, do your research. But she worked at the college. She worked grants for TRIO, for those that know. Then she became workforce, JTPA, became a workforce director. She built the first one-stop in South Carolina with the largest BRAC grant at the time, base realignment and closure. She got the largest BRAC grant at the time, and she built the first one-stop in America, right? Haggled USDOL and was given, heckled, maybe not heckled and haggled, about the same. And they ended up appointing her to be the special assistant secretary or special deputy assistant secretary, political under the Clinton administration. And a lot of people think that's where I got into it from. And while it might have influenced me down the road, that's not. I wanted to go into the military, but I was lucky enough to be in college and had some opportunities to work for juvenile services and the sheriff's department. And I'm gonna be quick here, and I'll say, Derrick, working for the Department of Juvenile Services, Juvenile Justice, I had a young man that had been incarcerated and I was an auxiliary probation officer. What basically means they gave me probation officer duties, but I was in college and I didn't get paid, so I was auxiliary. But had a young man, and he beat somebody up. He was getting ready to be released. I'm talking about model inmate. Somebody that they would send him to high schools, and he was the example of what to be, how to rebound your life. And he beat somebody up about 6 months prior to release. And I'm watching the other probation officers and how they handle it, and I had some great leaders. And he said, violate me. And in jail terms, that's like violate my terms, you know. And they was like, you know, if we violate you, you're going to get charged as an adult. You can go to the big jail. He violated me. Eventually, long story short, the probation officer essentially broke through that wall. And the probation officer, and when he broke through that wall, the guy said, you know, I'm 16, I'll be 17 in 6 months. Right now, if you release me, because you want me to go home. In jail, I got 3 meals a day, 2 snacks. I got AC in the summer and heat in the winter. You want to send me home, none of that's guaranteed. He said, but I read in the law library, if you release me at 17, I can emancipate myself, and if I emancipate myself, you got to find me housing. He said, so yeah, I'm cool with you violating me. He said, because what I got right now is better at home. And at that moment, I said, man, this dude that's close to my age, 16, I was probably 20, 21, he was bragging on 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. We all seen, don't nobody brag on jail food. He beat somebody up, a complete stranger, to fight. He was fighting to stay in jail because jail was a better circumstance than what he had in the free world. And at that moment, my life changed. I said, I am not going to live in a place where jail is a better place. Where being locked up, shackled, is better than being home. And that's what started my workforce career.
Thank you for that. Wow, amazing story. So it sounds like you have told us your why. When we think about workforce development and community economic development, here lately the conversation been around how workforce development is economic development. From your lens and from the seat that you sit in, can you let the listening audience know exactly why do you feel like workforce development is economic development?
Workforce development is economic development, and you can't have economic development without workforce development. But in reality, we're missing a development, community development. You can't truly impact the lives of the people you serve without community development. Now, I believe, and I say at Employer Prince George's, we operate at the intersection of workforce development, economic development, community development. And why is that? Because economic development is how do you build economic prosperity by focusing on businesses. Workforce development, I believe, is how you build economic prosperity in a specific geographical area by focusing on people. But if your businesses aren't successful and you don't have a healthy business community, you can't have healthy residents. If your residents aren't making money to spend money with those businesses, the businesses can't hire more people and they can't pay livable wages. If you're not generating tax revenue from all of those interactions, you don't have quality schools, which means people don't want to live there, which also means people are raised and don't have the education to be successful. So we have to have that, but in between that, you got all these socioeconomic factors. In Prince George County, a predominantly minority community, where we're overcoming systemic racism of America, redlining and everything else, and all the barriers that we have going on, we got to focus on community development, housing, light and utility assistance, focusing on incarceration. So we got to build our communities to be able to take advantage of opportunities. And if we can build our communities to ensure they know how can understand, can trust the system, take advantage of an opportunity, we got to make sure an opportunity is available. So that's how economic development is the opportunity to job. Workforce development is having the people to take advantage and be employed in that job. And community development is how do we unite it in a cohesive manner to ensure that we got the supports for all of that to work. So that's why I always say, we aren't just we're employed Prince George's. We aren't in workforce development Prince George's. We aren't whatever you want to call it. It's employed Prince George's, and we operate at the intersection of economic development, workforce development, and community development.
That's great. We're here at this conference, and many times we talk about bringing people to the table and making an impact in our community. And you, this morning, had an opportunity to speak to the attendees here, and your theme was on collective impact. Share with us the importance of that and perhaps some outcomes that you've seen championing that message of collective impact in the community.
Yeah, I believe we have to be very specific with our verbiage. We got to secure the bag. I'm a part of black culture. I love hip hop culture. I don't run from that. I always tell people about the great philosopher Rick Ross or the great philosopher E40, and because those are really philosophers of our time. Those are the poets of our time of hip hop, right? And so I always tell people, Rick Ross said, I don't want to move slow, I want to move correctly. Right? I don't want to move fast or slow. And I tell people, to secure the bag, that sack of money, we got to move correctly. But how do we move correctly? You got to be, what does the SAC stand for? Strategic, accurate, and consistent. And so collective impact is a specific form of collaboration and partnership. Anybody can collaborate and partner, right? But to really partner in a strategic manner to achieve that desired outcome is collective impact, and it's built on 5 conditions. 1 is a common agenda. 2 is a shared measurement system. 3, mutually reinforcing activities. 4, continuous communication. And most importantly, the 5th condition is a backbone support organization. And I believe in workforce development boards are primed through WIOA to be the backbone support organization. And if we bring in all of these other partners from multiple sectors, they say collective impact is bringing a group of important partners who are committed to solving a specific social problem from different sectors. That's your mandatory partners in your American Job Center. That's your 51% business requirement, right? The system is designed through a collective impact model. But in anything, successful people can tell you of a time when they took advantage of an opportunity. Failures can tell you of a time when something happened to them. It's us as practitioners to see that collective impact, leverage it, and take advantage of an opportunity.
That's great. Now, we talk a lot about the future. And that's one thing, any workforce conference I go to, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about the trends that are current in workforce. Where do you see things going in the future for Maryland and what's happening here locally?
Maryland is no different than the rest of America. It's automation and technology. Funding flows. Funding goes up and down. We're getting ready to go to a down portion of funding. ARPA's going away, COVID money's going away. The economy's rebounding, so our money's going to go down. That doesn't mean the need goes away. I think now with technology, we don't have to rely on people. I'm not trying to say get rid of jobs, but I'm saying can we serve the same amount of businesses with less money? And today's answer, it used to be no. Today's answer is yes. We can have AI, and that also increases access and equity, right? There's a phone in everybody's hand. There's a tablet in every child's hand almost, right? So what can we do online that we no longer have to do in person, and to allow those people to do something different? So AI and automation is big. We are building AI-driven, automated-driven virtual career center where you can almost do everything except the actual enrollment without ever stepping into a job center. We also built the most comprehensive, it's called E-Intelligence. It's the most comprehensive database of businesses in our region. We built it. We built the formula. It has 63,000 businesses. We segmented them by markets, and we no longer cold call or knock on doors. We know specific businesses that we want to engage, why, and we can tell them why, and it's all generated through an AI-driven system.
Wow.
And that is what I believe. Automation and AI is the future of workforce development.
Man, well, we're going to have you come back to talk more about that. That's some exciting stuff. And Walter, I want to thank you for today's conversation. You just unlocked, I think, a lid on so many things that are so important: collective impact, automation, and technology, and also what's happening here in Maryland. It's exciting to see. Like I said earlier, this is one of the largest state conferences that I've been to, and so it's great to see the growth that's happening, and also to see where things are going to go in this region and the work that you all are doing to elevate those that are actually doing this work and the leaders and bringing everybody together. So want to thank you for today's conversation. Thank you, Derrick, as well for this. And like I said, you're a friend of the podcast, friend of KRA, so we'll have to have you back again to continue this conversation.
Well, I'm going to invite you back to the Raising the Bar 2025.
Definitely.
Where we're shooting for 1,500 people. We can continue the conversation.
All right. Sounds great.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.